We are here in the matter of Melissa Culberson versus Turning Leaf Residential Rehabilitation Services.
And this matter comes before the court on a motion to approve settlement, release, and a settlement agreement. Mr. Paget, having reviewed the confidential exhibit, does it appear to be accurate to you?
Yes, the total settlement amount is accurate. I have no input on the attorney fee agreement. I will say that the family, I'm sure, will acknowledge that the Medicare lien and Molina lien are going to be paid out of the proceeds of the settlement as well as the probate attorney's fee. And I leave it up to the court's discretion about the proposed distribution of the net proceeds. It looks like all of the family members are here. Three of them are receiving some money, but plaintiff's counsel can discuss that.
Very well. Then I will turn it over to you, Mr. Arabo. Who do you wish to inquire of the representatives of Mr. Culbertson?
Yes, Ryan. Well, I guess I want to address an issue first before I get into that and see how Your Honor would like to address it. When I took over this case, I had communications with Melissa Frazier and David Brown, and no communications with Teresa. My office did send her a copy of the complaint and everything before I got involved. And then when I got involved, I called her and left her a voicemail. I had no communications with her throughout the entire proceedings. And then when the case settled, of course, I sent her a copy of the motion to approve a settlement to make sure she, to double check again, to make sure she's aware of everything. And then I received a phone call from her indicating that she disagrees with not getting paid her share. And I advised her to appear at the hearing today so she can kind of discuss that with Your Honor. And
and I do see Ms. Ducham is here today. I'll swear you in, Ms. Ducham, and I can ask you a couple of questions, and then we can figure out where to go from here. If you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony today will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Very good. And you belatedly, it sounds like, have heard of the settlement and what's happening in this matter.
Well, what happened, Your Honor, Rossi, is I received a document over a year ago on my front porch, just laying there. It wasn't certified. And none of the three siblings sitting there, they didn't not confer with me about, for number one, even putting this lawsuit on for my brother, Benjamin David Brown. And I'll tell you why. Because the person that put forth this lawsuit, this evil person, is the one that was, pretty much the reason he died. Okay.
Well, I don't want to dig too deep.
I know. I just want to tell you why dynamic. I was not. Nobody conferred with me. I did call Mr. Marco's office because I had to inquire what it was about, and I talked with his secretary and said, "Oh, okay. So this is in lieu of my brother Benjamin's death. She filed a wrongful death complaint. I get it. Okay." The receptionist said to me, "Just wait for the next round of paperwork. It'll explain more." Okay, I did. So I think like 2 weeks ago, I received that second paper in the mail, but on my front porch. It was not certified in the mail. It just was lying there. And I picked it up and I went through it and I had seen, okay, what is this? Nobody conferred with me. Nobody left a message on my phone. I've had the same phone number for 15 years, actually 18. I lived in the same address here for 15 years. Mr. Reno, I told him, you did not do your job. You did not depose me. You did not confer with me. You left a message and that was it. Oh, she's out. Well, that's a breach. That's not acceptable.
Well,
I'm sorry.
And
That's
Mr.
just,
Reno
I don't
is
even know.
Mr. Rabos, he was the attorney working on the case before Mr. Rabo took it over?
No, that's me, Reno Arabo. She is referred to
Reno.
me as Mr.
Okay,
Reno.
got it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I understand, right, that
Yeah.
your feeling in this case is that the consultation with you, you described yourself as Mr. And I misstated his name earlier as Culbertson. It's Benjamin Brown's sister. The distribution has you listed as a half sister, which is
Yeah.
accurate.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Are you
I'm his half sister.
half
I'm the
sister?
eldest. Yeah.
Okay. And my understanding, at least the way it's listed here, and I don't dig into the probate estate at all in these cases to determine what the real relationships are, is that Miss Culbertson is a full sister. Is that accurate as far as the?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct, Your
Okay.
Honor.
All right. No, and that's what, and then I have the other interested parties, Fraser Brown, half brother, and David Brown, also a half brother, as
Correct.
the ones that did at least appear and participate. Well,
Correct.
here's the key question to you, because there are two purposes of this hearing today. And number one is that I would approve of the fairness of the settlement in total. That is, the amount of the total settlement and the breakdown of the distribution of some of the money to Mr. Rabo's firm pursuant to the fee agreement. Some goes to Medicare and or the lien holders here who paid some medical expenses at the time of Benjamin Brown's death. And then finally, the remainder of that gets distributed per distribution agreement. Now, I'm taking it you disagree with the distribution agreement that has you getting 0% right now.
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, and I understand.
Entirely.
Yeah,
Come
no,
on.
and that's reasonable. You say, hey, I had this relationship as well, and obviously there are some hard feelings by you both about the representation and then also about the way the case was brought and the representative that brought it. And I guess the other key question for you is even if I don't finalize the distribution of this money today, are you in a position where you can approve the overall settlement amount and the amount paid to Mr. Arabo's firm? Or and really the way to, I'm just thinking out loud here because, as I said, this is the second one of these I've had this morning, and the second one where there have been some unanticipated uh, developments with regard to distribution, at least. Uh, in that, uh, the question would be, I guess, if you wanted to appear and challenge the appointment of Ms. Culbertson as the personal representative of the estate in this matter, there is probably a mechanism that you could do that through. I have frankly no idea because that would be mainly a matter for the probate court, uh, to make such determinations as to who's appropriate as the personal representative. In the event that you dislodged Ms. Culbertson as the personal representative, I suppose then you could go through and say, hey, the total amount here paid is not adequate, and I disagree with the total settlement amount. We should start this negotiation over. That would be one option. The other option is to say, you know what, I think that the total amount reached here is okay and fair. I just disagree with the distribution. So do you kind of understand those two choices?
I understand, Your Honor. Thank you very much for explaining it. The only thing is I'm sitting here without one number. I don't know what's going to who, what,
You
where,
haven't
and
gotten the
why.
confidential
Nothing.
exhibit
I
yet.
was obscured for
Judge,
the entire thing. I was obscured.
Your Honor, I
And
can
I
chime in
explained
there.
it to Mr. Reno. Give me a number.
All right.
I don't have the numbers.
And
Go
I
ahead.
Give
can,
me
Your
the
Honor.
numbers.
All right. Let me hear from Mr. Reno on what
Yes.
his position is here. Mr. Reno?
Your Honor, it was my understanding that the packet that was sent to Ms. Dusham had that confidential exhibit in it. If it didn't, I will send it to her right now, Your Honor. She never, when I spoke with her on the phone, never indicated to me that she didn't know what the settlement number was, or else, of course, I would have sent it to her. So I'll send that to her right now, Your Honor. I guess I'll take responsibility for that, Your Honor. But
Well,
I
okay.
can go ahead, Your Honor. Sorry.
Yeah, well, and I guess my thinking is, in terms of being able to accomplish what you'd like to accomplish today, because of the timing here and her just being able to see this now and ask to make some important decisions. I am a firm believer in that you get a better quality decision when you have a little bit of time to spend with it, that we're probably not going to be able to get to the point of approval today, because it sounds like uh,
Unequal distribution.
yeah, that Ms. Dutra may want to chime in regarding the total amount, and is certainly entitled to enough time to make a reasonable review of that.
Your Honor.
Yeah, go ahead,
Because
Mr. Patrick.
because Miss Culbertson is the personal representative, she's the only one that needs to approve the actual total amount of the settlement. So I think we can at least accomplish the approval of the settlement. And I don't know if the family has talked, but as it stands right now, the remaining net proceeds after the payment of the liens is split in 3 ways. Is the family agreeable to split it 4 ways instead of 3 people getting 33%? All 4 get 25%. I mean, that seems like the
Yeah, I
equitable.
100% agree with you that from a judicial perspective here, which is I'm flying at 20,000 feet above the ground and everything looks like it's in miniature. I mean, I only get a little tiny glimpse into what's really going on here in families and cases, but that it looks like there could be an easy solution here. And I guess we could go forth and Ms. Culbertson could. I mean, I think there is, the risk there is, of course, that there would be a challenge to Ms. Culbertson's standing as the PR down the road, but that risk lies.
I think that would have had to happen when she was appointed, and
the time
I don't
has
think there's
passed.
anything. I don't think there's any challenge of her as the personal representative, and she's the only one that has sole authority to answer the questions that it's in the best interest of the estate. I think if there can't be an agreement on the distribution, we can still approve it, and maybe you pass it along to the probate court because the net proceeds will be placed into the estate.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did in the last case. Is I did approve the settlement and left the matter of the distribution for a future hearing. I do think that's an option to proceed today.
If everyone agrees on 25%, then it makes your job easy.
Well, Your Honor, yes, I mean, Ms. Dusham, she indicated that she received the initial paperwork.
Agree to that. I would agree to that. I would strenuously tell you, Mr. Judge Rossi, when you are finished with this, you're going to think, why was I obscured?
Can I respond?
And I went through. I'm speaking.
You interrupted me first.
Yeah. No, you can continue, Mr. Ducham. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was obscured, and they almost got away with it. And I'm going to tell you, instead of me letting the cat out of the bag, I'm going to agree to my 25% right now, and the Medicare, the Molina, the Michigan Medicaid lien. Well, there's nothing there, and the probate pro. I'll agree to that. Just getting this information today, 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
And I'm gonna agree to it. But if anything else comes up and I'm obscured in any way, this whole thing is gonna start over from scratch. Because I'm gonna throw an amendment in. I'm going to throw an amendment in.
Yeah, a legal standpoint.
My rights were violated.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I understand, both from a family perspective and a legal perspective, that it is a very uncomfortable and position to be in, to feel like you're being shut out of decisions.
This is normal, Your Honor.
Sorry.
By the same token, Your Honor.
I can tell you that this is the second time it's happened this morning, so it's not unheard of, right? That. Right. There are, and like I say, I have no insight into the family dynamic and what's happening here, other than I reference my own family, and I'm a member of 2 large families on both sides here, and between forgetting people and not having their text or whatever, sometimes it happens accidentally, and sometimes it happens on purpose, and all the times it takes a long time to sort out as to if anyone had bad intentions, they're not. And, I deal with those things as well. So, I
Okay.
try to apply a kind of a common sense approach to it. Mr. Rabo, if Ms. Duchem does agree today to the 25% four ways split of the settlement amount, is that acceptable as far as you're concerned?
Well, Your Honor, can I first just respond to some of the allegations that was
Yeah,
thrown
go
my
ahead.
way? Your Honor, she testified that she received these documents. So no one left her out of these documents, and I can testify in front of Your Honor. I did leave her a
Yeah,
voicemail.
I get it. Right.
And
You
the sib and
submitted
she
like overnight packages that landed on her
Well,
porch,
no,
and
but
so she
then,
did have
but
some
sh and
information.
she spoke to my firm about the case, so she was aware of the case. No one left her out of the case, and of course, I sent her this motion to approve so she could be aware of it and attend this hearing. So I just don't appreciate any allegation that I was hiding this litigation from Ms. Dusham. That's
No,
number one.
I
Two, and,
understand.
and
I
if
apologize, Mr.
I
Reno, but that's what it looked like, and I just received the amount 5 minutes ago. You got to understand my position. Thank you, Mr. Reno. Thank
the
you.
So
Yeah,
does Melissa, Frazier, and David agree to that percentage?
they,
Because this will make it all easy.
they're not going to agree to that 25%. And I would like for you to hear from the family, Your Honor. We've heard a lot from Teresa, but the Melissa and David and Frazier are here as well, and they can provide some additional input. I think it's fair to let them speak too.
on the distribution question.
Correct, Your Honor.
Yeah. Well, here's what I can tell you is that I've got exactly enough time to, I can approve the settlement amount and the, uh, payment of that into, I suspect it would probably be into your firm's trust account, of the total, proceeds, and then a separate hearing on distribution. I'm simply not going to have time today, in the amount of time that I allocated. Because normally when we set these, I do get cases, and they're laid out, and lightning struck this morning, and I have two of them where distribution was contested. So that would be my instinct, would be to question the PR, keep the case moving forward, and that the money then can exchange hands and the release can be signed. And then we have a separate hearing on distribution. I certainly would advise, Ms. Duchem, to obtain counsel if you think there's some legal argument that needs to be made here. I have no idea, and I have every idea, because it's a family, and that there is undoubtedly, some hard feelings, to go around here. So, yeah, does that seem like a reasonable path forward for today's purposes, Mr. Abel?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Then what I'll do is I'll swear in Ms. Culbertson at this time, purely taking her, her sworn testimony on the fairness of the overall amount, and we will leave distribution for a later date on the matter. So at this time, I will swear in Ms. Culbertson. Ms. Culbertson, if you would raise your right hand.
Can you see it?
Yes, I can. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony today will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Very good. And would you state and spell your full name for the record, please?
It's Melissa Len Culbertson, and the last name is spelled Culbertson.
Thank you. And Mr. Rebo, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Melissa, can you please state your relationship to Benjamin Brown?
Yeah, I'm his full sister.
And are you the duly appointed personal representative of his estate?
Yes.
And have you reviewed the confidential exhibit that was sent to you?
Yes, I have.
And they had the breakdown of costs, attorney fees, liens, and net proceeds?
Yes.
And do you have any objection to anything in the confidential exhibit?
No.
Has anyone pressured you or forced you to accept the settlement?
No.
Are you accepting the settlement voluntarily and of your own free will?
Yes.
Do you understand the risk of settling this case versus proceeding to trial?
Yes.
And you understand that if you accept the settlement, you're releasing all claims against Turning Leaf?
Yes.
And do you believe that the settlement is fair, reasonable, and in the best interest of the estate of Benjamin Brown?
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Is there anything else that you would like to ask her?
I have a few questions, Your Honor, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Mr. Paget.
Ms. Culbertson, you understand that by agreeing to this settlement, and if the court approves the settlement, it forever bars yourself as personal representative or anyone else acting on behalf of Benjamin David Brown or the estate of Benjamin David Brown from filing suit against the defendants arising out of the incident occurring on July 8th, 2023.
Yes.
Okay. And your attorney indicated you could have went to trial. You understand that if you went to trial, you could have got $0, you could have got less than the settlement, more than the settlement, or the same exact amount.
Yes.
And it's still your desire and opinion that it's in the best interest of the estate to ask this court to resolve the case now.
Yes.
Okay. And you understand that by resolving this case, it's not an admission of any wrongdoing by defendant, but just a settlement of the claim.
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Very good. And I do not have any additional. Are you the only full sibling of Mr. Benjamin David Brown, Ms. Culbertson?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. No, that's the only question that
I guess, Your Honor. I mean, Melissa, are you three objecting to a even split amongst the four of you?
Yes, we are.
Okay, then I think we have to proceed, as you said, Your Honor, to approve the settlement and then leave the distribution for a later date for you to determine.
Very well. No, that seems to me to be the reasonable path forward here. It acknowledges, you know, the interest in keeping the case moving and, you know, both from a legal perspective and from the party's perspective in bringing this thing to closure. But the fact that there is still an unresolved question as to the, you know, proper distribution of any proceeds from this matter. And I will say, you know, I'm not very familiar with the family members or family dynamic here. However, I'm quite familiar with the case because this case was the subject of multiple pretrial motions, you know, that got us to where the point we are today with settlement. And I will say, you know, given that knowledge of the case, and I will say also, you know, to Benjamin Brown's family, that you have my deepest condolences. That I preside over our treatment and support court here, so I have, you know, at least a passing familiarity. And you know, I will say, for the record, I've had several, unfortunately, members who have participated or in the past participated who have committed suicide, and it is a horrible situation for everyone involved in the case, and complex because, of course, in that under those circumstances, you know, everyone from the professionals involved to family members, you know, law enforcement looks back and says, "Gosh, you know, should I have acted differently given what I knew at the time?" And it's always difficult to sort out, you know, what the correct answer. And I can say that as a judge, you know, that I don't pretend to have clear answers, and I think part of that is, you know, it's very difficult to you know, explore the thoughts of someone who's suffering from, you know, a chronic mental illness that's sending their brain the, you know, different signals from the rest of us I'll get on a daily basis. So I have very deep sympathy for your family, because I also know that preceding, you know, this tragedy, there's also years of worrying about that person and how are they doing and are they being cared for appropriately and all those things. There is a very high burden on any family that contends with mental illness. So having said all of that, I do think that the settlement here is reasonable. I will say on the record, you know, I said this in the last settlement, I recently had almost a 2-week trial on a wrongful death, not at all similar. You know, it was a slip and fall at the Amway Hotel here in Grand Rapids, a 91-year-old woman. But I will say that the financial recovery to her estate was less than what was achieved here after a 2-week jury trial. So that stands for the proposition that when a case like this, a complicated case with a lot of complicated factors and a lot of fact questions that would go before a jury resolves, I am of a firm belief that the parties who have the most information about the case itself, and of course the attorneys who are advising on the legal likely outcomes and what the prospects and uncertainties would be before a jury, are in a way better position to come to a reasonable resolution, than eight strangers, that you pick up and you try to get them as much information in as short a period of time as you can. But, the lawyers here know, and I would want the family members to know too, that process is fraught with uncertainty. And, you don't know, you all know the case and your lawyers know the case way better than those jurors would ever know the case. So, and those outcomes are, and I told the jurors in that case, when the case finished, I thought they would have been justified in returning a verdict of $0 to much more than what they did. And in that case, they did find liability. They found that the hotel was negligence and the cause of death. So, they just cut back on the value because of some contributory negligence on the part of the person. So, there are a lot of things that unexpected that can happen at a jury trial, and thus I firmly believe that a settlement like this, where there is some compensation received out of a tragic situation, recognizing that no money ever replaces a person. This is just the way we try to, come to a resolution legally of disagreements that we have about what happened at the time of the tragedy. So, all that being said, I do think it was a good settlement, and I do know, having, like I said, heard from the lawyers multiple times on this case, that there has been a lot of, investment, in the case by the law firms in terms of both motion practice and hiring experts and trying to get the right experts involved with the case to testify. And, just the difficulty there shows again kind of the somewhat disorganized nature of our mental health treatment system in the United States. This is not only in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I attend conferences all over the country, and we struggle with this as a nation. So, again, my deep condolences to the family and my assurances to everyone involved here that this is a financially fair and just resolution of the case as a whole. And I will leave the discussion about distribution to a future date in the hopes that, through some perhaps engagement of the interested family members here, perhaps we can cobble together some sort of agreed upon resolution, or I can take testimony and reach that decision myself. Although, again, I would qualify that with the remark that inevitably you all know way more about these relationships than I'm ever going to learn in a half-hour or 2-hour hearing. And I have decided distributions before, but I'm always convinced that if the family members, if there's any way to reach agreement, either with getting lawyers involved or not, that's the way to go, because you all know, years and years of relationships and conflict, and who's done what over the years way better than that's ever going to get expressed to me. At the end of the day, I'm just giving it my best effort to be fair and equitable. But if you can come to a resolution, I certainly would encourage that. And if you feel like you need a different, in particularly Ms. Durcham's case, if you need separate counsel, because you've got conflicts with, the way that Mr. Ravels handled this, I certainly would encourage you to consult, worth the, $1,000 consultation with a lawyer to make sure you're being treated reasonably in the whole matter. So with all that being said, I'll approve the settlement. We'll wait in the future for a distribution. Can you get me an order to that effect, Mr. Rabel?
Yes, John. Should I put are we gonna get a new date today for that? Should I put that in the hearing and the order, or?
Why don't you know what? Why don't you notice up? Why don't you consult, see where we get, how far we are away, and then just notice up a date for the distribution hearing with Wendy.
Okay, and Your Honor, should I put that in the hearing or in the order, or just deal with that separately?
Yeah, just let's deal with it separately.
Okay, understood.
Because if I put it in the order, then I'm going to have to issue a modified order.
Okay, understood.
All right. Thank you all. And like I say, do want to reflect. I know a lot of legal work has gone into this case, and hopeful that we can reach some kind of agreement on distribution. But if not, let me know and we'll do the hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.